Hello and welcome to the Paul Green Comedy PaulCast. It is November 28th, 2024, episode 336, also known as Thanksgiving Day here in the United States. I'm saying here in the United States as if I have international listeners. This is stand-up comedian, actor, and improviser and dreamer Paul Green, sharing my journey as I pursue my comedy dreams in the hopes that perhaps you will pursue your dreams as well, whatever they may be. I am coming to you from New Mexico. I was about to say Las Vegas for some reason. And I cannot even think of the name of the town I'm in. It's like Menascara? Menascrawl? I don't remember. It is a small town east of Las Cruces, a couple hours, and it's actually pretty close to El Paso, Texas. So I am almost to El Paso. It's about 2 hours away from El Paso. And I am currently at the hotel and casino resort known as the Inn of the Mountain Gods. Very intimidating name. And I'm here because I headlined a stand-up comedy show at a venue inside the resort tonight. And it was a bit of a milestone for me because the booker who put me on this gig is someone I've been working with for about 2 or 3 years. And he started booking me on some of these casino gigs, but he was only booking me as a feature act. He didn't quite consider me a headliner, and tonight he asked me to headline, and so that was pretty exciting, even though I am fully aware that the only reason I got this gig is because he had asked several other headliners who didn't want to do a show on Thanksgiving. So, but that's how it goes a lot of times with these gigs. I mean, in the comedy world, it's so competitive. Bookers, they have a bit of a short list of headliners who they know and who they trust and who are their first go-tos whenever they need a booking. And if you're not already on their headlining list, then, the chances of you getting one of those gigs is pretty small. So all you can do is just be on their radar. And then when one of their headliners is unavailable and they start going through their list, if you've been showing up, if you've been doing a good job, if you've been being professional and being funny and all of that stuff, well, then there is a chance. There just might be a chance that on a holiday, when no comic wants to drive to New Mexico to headline on Thanksgiving, you just might get the call. And so that's what happened. This booker had this spot open. He went to a couple of his regular headliners. They all turned him down. And then he came to me, even though I had initially only been a feature act in his mind, and asked if I could headline the show, which is, a little bit of a sign of trust for him to go, well, I've heard enough good feedback as, him being a feature. Maybe I'll try him in the headlining spot and see what happens. So that is what I did tonight. And overall, the show went very, very well. There was a feature act and a host that drove up from El Paso, speaking of El Paso, Texas, who opened the show. They both did a good job. Now, the audience was... let's start here. The venue itself, where the comedy show actually was, it's it's kind of a multi-purpose venue, meaning the the venue wasn't created specifically for stand-up comedy. It's more of a overall performance venue. So there's a stage, but then there's also a dance floor, and they do karaoke, and they do dance music, and the stage is pretty big, and they do music. Now, that's not always a bad thing. However, the ideal environment for comedy is not necessarily the same ideal environment for music or for bands or for karaoke. Um, and there's a lot of reasons for that. It has to do, with the acoustics of the room. It has to do with the layout of the room, how the chairs and the tables are situated. There's just a lot of factors. And so, I mean, the venue itself, it's pretty nice. It is closed off from the rest of the casino. They closed the doors. So there's not a lot of noise pollution, which I've done other casino gigs where that's a huge problem, to where there's literally slot machines like on the other side of a curtain, and you can hear like the cacophony of sounds coming from the casino bleeding into the show. Um, this venue did a pretty good job of blocking out. It was actually an enclosed space. Um, so that was nice. Some downside though is the floors were hard floors, and the ceilings were kind of high, and so it has a bit of a boomy sound, which you never want for comedy. You want to have it as intimate, low ceilings, carpet if you can, to absorb. You don't want a lot of echo. You don't want a lot of boom. Now, that's why I say, music and comedy are not necessarily the same. For music, you want a little bit more space. You want a little bit more air in the room. Comedy, you want it tight. You want it intimate. And that's the other challenge, is the seating arrangement. Now, it's not a huge room. I bet you if every seat were full, maybe it would seat 60. But the layout is tables and chairs pretty well spread out, which is it's not great. Now, I know why they do that, because a lot of people obviously don't want to be crammed sitting next to strangers who they don't know, right? You just want to sit with the people you came with at your table, kind of have your own space. So it was kind of spaced out like a regular restaurant. Like if you just think of a, restaurant that has tables and chairs, we're not talking booths, but tables and chairs and high tops with chairs. It was kind of spread out that way, to where like if people were just coming there to have dinner, they would be able to sit at the tables and chairs, and it would feel more like a restaurant layout, which not the end of the world, but not ideal for comedy. What's ideal for comedy is to get all of the people as close to the stage and as close to each other as possible, which I totally get why for a lot of people they don't, like that, because they want to have their space and they don't want to be, sitting shoulder to shoulder with strangers. So I get it, but unfortunately that, again, is not ideal for comedy, to have the crowd all spread out, because comedy is an energy thing and it's an intimacy thing. And the more close the audience is to each other and to the stage, it just creates a more organic, intimate environment. And it also sort of consolidates, isn't the right word, but it congregates the laughter. And one of the challenges with this space is it's so airy, it's so boomy, with concrete floors, everybody's spread out, high ceilings, that the laughter does dissipate pretty easily. you don't have like the sense of that loud audience togetherness laughter. Um, Even though, I'm connected to the audience and I'm looking out and I'm seeing everybody laughing and I can hear them laughing. But again, it's not the volume and the energy isn't just quite isn't there. So it just makes it a little bit harder to get the energy up, to get the audience connected to you, to your material, and to bring them along. And so, and the comics before me, they did a good job, but they weren't super high energy comics. And so it was just sort of a low energy, chill vibe, which, quite frankly, that doesn't work for me. I like energy. I like connection. I like really, going at it and bringing volume and passion and emotion to my comedy and having the audience hopefully come along with me. So overall, I feel they did. It took me a little while to get them warmed up. They were pretty low energy, when I took the stage. So I really had to come at them hard. I did I started right out with material. I didn't do any fluff up front. I wanted to just set the precedent right up front that I'm coming at you with jokes. I ain't messing around here. And then I did my opener, and then I did a little bit of riffing about the name of the hotel, which was a bit of a cheat code because I performed at this same hotel and resort about 6 or 7 months ago. And when I had come there before, I had just thought of some jokes about the fact that the name of this casino is Inn of the Mountain Gods. And my joke around that is how that's just a very intimidating name, and how as a comedian, I'm usually afraid of offending an audience, but now I'm afraid of offending gods of the mountain. And, then I get really like, we are the gods of the mountain. You have offended the mountain gods. And I did that when I was here in February, and people really loved it and thought it was funny. So I was like, cool, I'm going to do that again. It connects me to the room. It, to the circumstance, to the venue and all of that. And I elaborated on that a little bit. So I went into my Inn of the Mountain Gods material, and people, they were laughing, they were having a good time. And then, I went through my material. I didn't quite feel like they were loving my material. Like, I wasn't getting huge laughs on it. I was getting good laughs. But, a lot of my material is about like dating apps and stuff. And the general demographic of the audience, they definitely leaned older. There were definitely more like 60, 70-year-old couples all in the front row that I could see. And then there were some younger couples, like maybe in their 40s, or whatever. But for the most part, it was sort of an older demographic. And, and that's just that's just going to happen because I'm talking about things that, probably half of the audience has never used Tinder. But they still get it. They still go with me, but it's not going to hit them in that funny bone like material that really is relatable to them. It's almost like they have to relate by proxy, or they have to relate just by picturing what I'm talking about and going, oh, well, yes, I can understand how if I was on Tinder that what he's talking about would make sense, even though I've never actually been on Tinder myself, right? So, there's going to be some material that is going to be more ubiquitous, and then material that's going to be a little bit more niche. And unfortunately, when I'm talking about being single and being on dating apps, um, you know, it's relatable to a lot of people, but there's still going to be a demographic of people who aren't going to be able to relate to it as closely. So I still was getting the laughs. They were still with me, but I wasn't like killing them. I wasn't slaying. But I was still bringing a lot of energy, a lot of love, a lot of passion, and a lot of emotion. And, even though maybe it wasn't getting, like every joke was completely just slaying the audience with laughter, they were still enjoying it. So I went through that material, and then I did my token crowd work / music improv, where I talked to a couple who were sitting in the front row who were so great. They were so gracious and were willing to tell me their story, and a lot of sort of funny twists and turns came out as they were telling their story, and they were cool with me. I'm riffing with them and, giving them a hard time and all that stuff. And they were just so great, and they were enjoying it. And I improvised a song about them. And when I did that, I got a huge round of applause. So it kind of took me that long to really get them on my side and to really get them laughing. And that was, probably 35 minutes in. So now again, it wasn't bad. It was not bad. It was, again, everybody was laughing. I just wasn't getting like massive LOLs, on the material portion. I was getting some pretty good LOLs when I would kind of go off script and riff and kind of play with the audience a little bit, which is almost always the case. It's very rare that material is more funny than crowd work or riffing, especially when the riffing is very present and relevant and everybody is having the same shared experience. And then, but then by the time I did the song, that went really well. And then I did my typical closer, and overall, the audience was incredibly gracious. Very supportive afterwards. A handful of them came up and shook my hand and told me what a good time they had and how much fun it was, and that they'll be following me on social media and all of that. So overall, very good experience at the Inn of the Mountain Gods. I did not anger the gods of the mountain, and they will now let me leave the resort without destroying my car with a rock slide. So, with that, everybody, I'm going to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving. I have not started in on a new self-help book, so I don't have any commentary for you. And it's a holiday. I'm going to enjoy myself and get ready for a long drive home. I got to drive back to Phoenix tomorrow, and then I got a few more casino gigs coming up in just a few days. So overall, everybody, the dream is alive and well. I'm so grateful that I get a chance to do these types of gigs, that, I have a booker who trusted me with moving up into a headlining spot, even though he'd never tried me out as a headliner before. And very grateful for the resort and for all the beautiful people that showed up. And I'm grateful to all of you for listening. So how's that for a little bit of extra gratitude for the Thanksgiving holiday? All right, everybody. This is the Paul Green Comedy Podcast for November 28th, 2024, episode 336. I love you all so much. I hope your dreams are coming true. You're out there pursuing them and finding fulfillment and joy in the journey. I will talk to you all tomorrow back home in Phoenix, Arizona. See you then.